Hello everybody, Skylands here, and I'm here to talk to you about the history of theatre, different theatre styles, and not only that, but what it could happen in the future. Anyway, starting off, we have the 1737 Licensing Act. Now this was a pretty big act for multiple reasons. Now the main reason was it allowed Lord Chamberlain to control over plays, the companies and the theatres all together. Now this meant he had a monopoly over all theatres in London. It gave him the power to choose which theatres ran what, and only allowed 2 theatres to play certain types of plays. These 2 theatres were called Covent Garden and Drury Lane. Now, not only did Lord Chamberlain have power over theatres and plays and all that, but he also was allowed to vet scripts. This meaning that he could either be like, I want this play to be shown, or this makes fun of me mate, the Prime Minister, I don't want this shown. He was able to do that because the Prime Minister at the time was Robert Walpole, whose political stances were critiqued multiple times in theatres at this point. Now, we don't see this type of theatre often nowadays. However, for this time period, it was quite popular. However, Robert Walpole was very sad that it was happening, and he decided to do something about it. This creating a Licensing Act. And certain theatres had to get licenses, obviously, as the name suggests, to put on plays. However, these short-term licenses could be shut down entirely, or if you put on a play they don't like, they could be sued. However, there was one small issue. The power that was gave out was not actually enforced by the law, but it was enforced by penalties whenever a theatre refused to cooperate. Now you might be thinking, how did my pal Robert pull this off? Well, the act originally did fail in 1735, however 2 years later it was able to pass due to the fact Walpole used an offensive play known as the Golden Rum as an example. Now, due to the mystery surrounding the Golden Rum and the fact we're not even fully sure what the contents of it was, this has led to people to question if it's even an actual play, and if he made it up just so he could put this in place. Let's take a break from all that history. Let's talk about different styles of theatre for a bit, like pantomime, a very famous type of theatre. Pantomime was also known for its very heavy use of cross-dressing. Now, pantomime started in the 1720s by a man named John Rich. Now, when it came out, it was very unpopular, you see. Traditional theatres really didn't like it. This is due to the fact it felt like it was dumbing down acting, as most of it was over the top and exaggerated, which contrasted with the traditional theatre style, which was more naturalistic. They felt like the over-exaggeration was sort of a mockery towards theatre in that time period. Now, most early pantomimes used to be performed by comedic characters. However, it was set with music and no speech whatsoever, meaning they had to exaggerate their body movements, which made them seem comical and stupid, like I have mentioned beforehand. Now, speaking of comical and stupid characters, another style that relied a lot on actions and emotions is a melodrama, where there was also no speech and typically played with music, and they did over-the-top actions to act out what was happening on stage. This style was created by Jean-Jacques Rousseau. I'm very sorry if I've mispronounced that name. Now, melodramas typically have a very thin amount of characters, these including a villain, a hero, and a damsel in distress. Now, This would have the villain kidnap the damsel and then the hero saved them, and that was the stereotypical melodrama, and the fact there was only really a hero and a villain showed the differences between good and evil, which was very simple to understand using melodrama. Now, on the complete other end of the spectrum, you have something called Ashley's Amphitheatre. Now, this was created by Philip Ashley, who started his business in 1768. Now, it inspired modern circus. However, what Philip did was he had a lot of acrobats, animals, and clowns.
It's prime clown time in the kitchen. Heck yeah. There's a banana peel. Whoopsie daisy. I'm here all week.
Now, the reason he had animals was because of his past with horses, and due to this, he had a lot of shows with horses in them, whether it be horse racing or it being a battle reenactment, you know, like with chariots and such. Now, back to Lord Chamberlain. He now didn't have as much power as he used to, because now the year is 1843. Now, he was able to modify plays which didn't suit the ideals. He also made it so that any plays that were put on in Broadway could not be shown in the West End. However, unlike it used to be, he could only stop a play if the play went against the public peace or good manners. Now, there was a huge demand for theatre at the time due to the fact there was a lot of new audiences due to the increasing population and the growth in transportation. Now, in 1909, there were three fellas whose names were George Bernard Shaw, J.M. Barrie, and William Gilbert. Now, they wanted to find out the reasons that Lord Chamberlain could refuse to license a play. Now, let's skip ahead a little bit to 1968, where a new act was introduced, getting rid of the strict tax beforehand. The day after this act was put in place, a controversial play named Hair got released to the public, which showed a lot of nudity and completely shocked audiences at this time period, as they have never seen anything like it before. This act not only stopped being stricter, but it allowed anywhere to put on plays. It allowed the local authorities to give licenses to plays and theatres themselves. So, the 20th century, eh? We finally reached it. Now, it's not the 21st, but we're close enough already. Now, in the early parts of the 20th century, that's when realism started to form. Realism being a type of drama where you could definitely believe that a story has happened in real life, and that the characters are something that's not very exaggerated, much like melodrama. Now, this newfound realism allowed people to reflect on the world that they live in, due to the fact that the theatres started mirroring reality. Now, realism had three main people it could thank for its creation, them being Henrik Ibsen, August Strindberg, and Anton Chekhov. What all three of them had in common were the themes of romance. However, Henrik Ibsen was known for a lot of taboo topics such as suicide, strong women, and going against the social norm, where Anton Chekhov was known for his very complex storylines and his overlapping characters. The thing that these two had in common was they were both foreign. Now, Chekhov and Ibsen weren't the only influences that were foreign. There was also Stanislavski and Bertolt Brecht. They're massive influences, allowing theatre to be moulded into what it is today. Now, another thing that happened in early 20th century is that religion stopped having a massive impact for theatre. This meaning a lot of plays had less religious views. I'm not really sure how to transition these. I've just been making it up as we go. So, now we're on the late 20th century, and musical theatre has just become massive. Look at this small clip from a very famous musical theatre known as I'm in my shower and I got water in me eye.
I'm hanging on to the other side. I won't give up till the end of me. I'm what you get when the storms arrive. Now face it, you're just an enemy. Whoa, whoa, you're crossing. Oh, there's water in my eye. Ow, ow.
But that was just beautiful. You know what else is beautiful? The fact we were able to move away from realism. You know, introducing different types of theatre, like symbolism, theatricalism, expressionism, futurism, and surrealism. It's so amazing that all of these were able to grow and become their own thing. And finally, we have avant-garde theatre, which was built upon psychological and sociological stress, such as nuclear weapons and nuclear war. This targeted the people who were worried about what could happen to themselves, their country, or the world. Finally, we're done with history. Well, sort of. Now we get to talk about some types of theatres. Now, the first type was made around the 1900s and is a repertory theatre, which has a repertory of plays, as the name suggests. And this is where they have a backlog of plays. If these theatres produced them per week, that was known as a weekly repertory. Now, they typically only play one of these plays per night of the week. This was so that if any tourists were coming to that certain place, they were able to go to the theatre every day for that week they stayed, instead of going to see it once and then not being able to go because they've seen the play already. The next two are a receiving house and a producing house. And a receiving house is where the companies hire out a space in that theatre, whereas a producing house creates its own plays within this theatre, such as the New Vic for producing, or the Regent Theatre in Hanley for the receiving house. As I said before, the receiving theatre gets paid by theatre companies paying to use the facilities, but that's not the only way they make money. They make money on the ticket prices, food, and the drinks. And the theatre companies that rent the theatre out get a big cut of the ticket sales, whereas the producing theatres get paid by all that, but they also get paid by the Arts Council. Now, what is the Arts Council? The Arts Council is something that was founded in 1946 and was made to fund a lot of types of theatres, including experimental theatre, touring theatres, and commercial theatres. Thanks to the Art Council's help, there was 15 new theatres that were built around 1960 to 1970. Now, just before we wrap things up with the death of theatre and where it might go in the future, I'm here to talk to you about 3 more types of theatre. Well, 3 more types of plays, but you know what I meant, probably. First type I'm going to talk about is spectacle theatre. Now, this theatre was much like Philip Ashley's amphitheatre, where they would have animals, but they would take it a step further. Like, they would flood stages to recreate naval battles. They would also bring in large sets, such as a train crash in The Whip in 1909, made by Henry Hamilton. Now, the second type of theatre is a drawing room comedy. Now, this was early naturalism, where many people spoke normally and behaved like a normal person. Sorry about the strange accent change. I couldn't say person in this sort of accent, so I kinda just gave up. Anywho's, the final theatre type is called a pictorial drama, which started in the mid-19th century. This style paid a lot of attention to the costumes and the props. This allowed them to tell a better story, which could also educate the audiences, which happened very often for this style. Now, I want to take a moment of silence for a fallen friend. I killed Phineas, my dear pumpkin pal, just for this joke. I'm sorry, Phineas, but we are moving to the death of theatre as shown by the death of Phineas. We're about to see the top 3 killers of theatre. Number 1, radio. Now, BBC Radio started in 1922. This started killing theatres, as we can see clearly here. We can see the evolution of radio, as in 1964, pirate radio started becoming a big thing. Pirate radio let people move out of the legal terms and allowed them to play music they weren't allowed to typically. We can see these pirates blasting good old Kevin MacLeod's Fluffing a Duck. What a masterpiece. This was not allowed on radio before pirate metal was created, as they moved out of the legal boundaries. And now, later on in 1955 is when DAB came to be. Wow, they call me Dr. Seuss for a reason. Number 2, cinema. In 1890s, the Lumiere brothers put on moving picture shows in a variety of places. This was the first time theatre was introduced, especially in the UK. The reason this affected theatre so much is because people wanted to see the new big moving screen instead of seeing people move around before their eyes. Then in 1909, the first colour film was introduced in the UK. Now, this was big because people were now infatuated with this new technology known as colour. Now, a little later on, in 1927, they introduced sound to films, which meant it grew a lot more. Now, we see the biggest impact on theatres in 1946, where we can see that 31 million people visited cinemas weekly. Lastly, number 1, television. In 1936, the first television broadcast happened. Now, this was one of the biggest problems with theatre's death, as it allowed people to watch theatre without actually leaving their houses. But for now, that wasn't a big problem, as not many households could have one. However, later on in the year, in 1939, more than 20,000 TV sets were sold. Now guys, welcome back to a new video called Death of TV, where I, Chills, am here to talk to you why TV is slowly dying. Number 3. In 1998, DVDs were launched in the UK. Now, this had an impact on TV due to the fact that people no longer had to watch TV and they could actually buy DVDs and watch them as much as they wanted. This definitely affected the actors' pay. It was easier to work out how much they got owed by how much it ran on TV, as they would also get money if it got reran. Number 2. YouTube. Now, YouTube was made in 2005, but it wouldn't become a big problem until 2006, where a rise of popularity came. Now, this didn't just kill theater, this affected actors as well, as clips from movies or TV shows that they've been a part of were now being uploaded to YouTube so people could watch them for free and they wouldn't get the credit or the money made from that video. Now, there's a bit of irony due to the fact this is being filmed on a YouTube video. Number 1. Streaming services. Now, I know all of you use streaming services to watch all your shows. Now, this is very convenient for you, yet not for the actors, as many of the organizations fail to pay their actors fairly, as they cannot calculate how many times a movie has been watched. And for a last little addition, what could happen in the future? Now, I don't want to cover too many topics, however, I do want to quickly brush up on AI, as yes, this could be terrifying, yet so far we have nothing to worry about. However, if it goes in the direction it is going, many voice actors, many writers, and sometimes maybe artists could be going out due to AI. We've already seen how easy it is to replicate a voice using AI. I'm sure all of you at once has listened to an AI cover of a song, or seen the presidents playing Minecraft with each other. So far, artists and writers don't have anything really to fear. However, as I said, if this continues, then it could be detrimental, as many of the writers already aren't getting paid well enough, and they might be replaced with AI in the near future to try and save a couple of bucks. But with the artists, many people are already trying to make movies out of AI art, even though it's all stolen and awful, and it looks like this, and dear God, I really fucking hate it. Man, I had to censor myself. Anyway guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and smash that notification bell. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.